Is there more to what success means to Siddhi today?
100K or 1 million, as though those were very normal numbers. I crave to have a bigger impact on this world, to just build something that lasted. The moment would fall down, she'd be like, get back up. My 10-year goal is to build $1 billion company, which will make it very easy for anyone across the world to book a private chef. And what that will do is allow people to get together with friends, families, and make wonderful memories. I'd love to be a trader, and I was just like fighting for my spot, and he was like, oh, well, why don't you go back to India, get married? What? And all these things were like not even funny, and in my mind, I just thought, wait till the day I become a trader because I deserve it. A lot of us are going to have multiple careers. In order to feel motivated, you need to know your end goal and you need to know your next step. We felt a combination of fear, anxiety, like dread. I remember days where there was like zero revenue, mental discipline by building physical discipline. Only connect the dots, looking backwards. I love being South Asian. Like I love desi outfits. As we graduated YC, we were like, right, something has to change. Yeah. We took a little bit of a break. We started working out. We started eating better. I read books, obviously. I really, really believe in the one thing. Just ask. Faith.
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Mindset. I'm Dr. Veena, and today I'm sitting across a very, very impressive individual. She's the co-founder of Yhangry, a private chef marketplace. She's been seen on Dragon's Den. She's backed by Y Combinator. If that wasn't impressive enough, she's done a computer science degree from Colombia University, and she has worked in financial bonds as a financial bonds trader at Barclays. Above all of this, she's an incredible dancer and continues to train to this day. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Siddhi Mittal.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm very good.
Yeah? I was really excited to have you here with me. I remember when I first saw Yhangry, if I'm honest. I remember seeing a Dragon's Den. I remember thinking, what a cool concept. No one's ever thought of this before. And you made that transition working in a financial sector to then going and being a founder. What was your mindset behind that?
Wow, very loaded question. What was my mindset behind that? To be honest, I spent 6.5 years working as a trader. I thought it was the best job in the world. It's so exciting. You're so young. You're trusted with so much risk. Like my balance sheet was 500 million plus. To me, like I would say 100K or 1 million, as though those were very normal numbers, which is really funny.
They're not normal numbers.
They're not normal numbers at all. And I think those 6.5 years was amazing time. However, I always knew that there was something else. And getting towards the 5-6 year mark, that feeling just became very burning. Like my father's an entrepreneur, my mom's super academically smart, but I just knew that like I had like my father's blood, and I itched to do something more, especially because financial world produces a lot of smart people. They're very sharp, thick-skinned. However, you're solving for something very unidimensional. Like my entire goal at work was to make money, and I got paid on that. And after 6.5 years, it just was not enough. And to me, I crave to have a bigger impact on this world, to just build something that lasted.
That's beautiful. Was it ever enough? Or did it take 6 years for it to not be enough?
So at the beginning, it was great. So it was enough. And actually, what changed in 6.5 years was my definition of what success meant. The realization that the word called purpose existed. Mm-hmm. And I think my journey from like being a 21-year-old to a 31-year-old, that also influenced how my mindset changed, because I always laugh, but at 21, I didn't care about anything but myself. I was in this very isolated bubble. Everything was fun. Everything was exciting. And I came from a family where I was privileged enough that they supported me through my education in US, which is saying a lot. And for me, my definition of success was to make enough to hypothetically pay back my parents and just have.
Why is that hypothetical? Did you not pay them back?
No.
Okay.
And hence the privilege, because they're Indian parents. Of course, they would never accept it back. But I remember when they paid the last check at Colombia, I remember sending my dad an email saying, I promise this is the last one. And I really meant that, because I was like, wow, I see you paying, and I just wish I can make enough one day that this all was for like worth something. However, I think after 5-6 years of having earned enough, like making my mark in the, sort of like my bank balance was big enough. My parents were like proud enough. And I was like, okay, right, now what is it that I want? And I think that's when everything changed.
I think that's very honest, and that's kind of visceral in saying, you're stating you had that privilege and voicing that as a young South Asian woman. It's powerful, Even saying how much backing you had from your family. Was that always the case? Were they always really supportive?
They've always been very supportive. And actually, there is a fact with... I don't want to actually stereotype my own parents. However, when we grew up, you never shared things that went wrong with your society. And in India, especially if you speak to Indians, they'll say, don't show your weakness. So we grew up actually in an entrepreneurial family, but what that meant was the highs were high, but the lows were very low. And when we were kids, it doesn't really matter. Like, kids enjoy life regardless, but we have seen very tough days. But obviously, like, over time, my dad made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of great work, and like he then did really well for himself. So as we graduated, like at the point I started going to college, my parents were thriving. And I think that's where the privilege comes from. But have my parents always been privileged? No. And have we seen like the ups and downs? Yes, more so than anyone. And I think because of that, I can appreciate that. Like, it doesn't matter, actually the journey is all about the highs and the lows. Yeah. And actually it's the lows that I remember in the best way possible, because I know we got through it. Every low we got through it. And that's really exciting, but it's also very motivating. And it gives me a lot of power, because I know anytime there's a problem, I can solve it. It doesn't matter what the problem is. There is a way out. There are actually so many ways.
And that is how it should be, because change is the only certainty in life. Problems are going to keep coming. You have to evolve, and you have to keep kind of molding to what the problem is. So I think that's probably makes sense of why you are where you are, and you're sitting here with all of these achievements, to look back on. I think that's incredible. You mentioned there were some tough days as a child. Can you share with me what one of those tough days looked like?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if your memory, I think there's like a psychological bias where you tend to remember only the good stuff when you look back. So for me, actually, childhood was wonderful. And I remember my mom. So as a kid, when a child falls down, I think parents are usually like, oh no, are you okay? And my mom baked into us this trigger. So the moment we'd fall down, she'd be like, get back up and say Jai Siya Ram, which is like this Hindi phrase, Hindu, just saying like you're praying to the God. Yeah. So as children, whenever we fell down, instead of crying, we would just get back up and be like, Jai Siya Ram. She inbuilt that trigger, which I think is incredible. Yeah. So in terms of like what a bad day looked like, I guess from like a personal perspective, it's probably like having cash flow issues in like a family, which is a business family. And I think what that looks like is, oh God, I hope my mom and dad are not listening. But what that looks like is like they probably don't have enough to buy dinner. And actually, I don't know what my parents did. I probably ate bread or something, which was delicious. Yeah. And I don't even remember. That's the thing. But like those tough days were more tough for my parents. But as kids, I see everything through like a rosy lens. We probably played games and we hid that day. Yeah. And it was like another really fun day where adults are a little bit stressed, but we're having a great time. Yeah, so it's very difficult to isolate what a tough day as a kid looked like for me. But I know as a family, there were a lot of tough situations and we were very aware. Actually, while I'm saying this, there was a time when they thought, oh, wow, maybe we can't pay fees and we might have to take you out from school. And all this is stuff we never spoke about to our friends or family or relatives. But it was there and we lived through that. So I think I've really seen the lows and like the stress of my parents. Yeah. But we just watched them figure out a way, and it always seemed to work.
But that's beautiful, isn't it? The sacrifice, the dedication that parents take on their shoulders so, their children could live their dreams. And thank you for sharing that. I think that, again, is testament to who you are today, and all the sacrifice that they've put in kind of, piles up to see where you are. So I think that's actually incredible. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Because it's easy for people on the outside to look at you today, Siddhi, and think, oh, she's had it easy. She's come from a comfortable background. But only you know what you've been through, and you know what's made your mindset the way you are.
100%. And I think, like, to me, parents are everything. Like, family is very important, but I actually think I'm like literally becoming a 100% byproduct of both of my parents. And sometimes like I know their shortcomings and I want to be better, but like who I am as a person is literally them. And I think what they've done has molded so much of me. And they've really done so much, which sometimes is very daunting because I'm like, God, if I ever were to have kids, like that's what I need to do for them. But yeah, they've done a lot.
The bar has been set.
The bar's been set very high. And I think they're incredible parents. They've just... like, it's like a journey of a lifetime that they have lived. And I've had the privilege of like, being on the journey. Yeah. Now I get to build mine.
Oh, no, that's incredible. You said at 21, what success meant to you was very different than 31. A bit of that you touched upon was purpose and doing something a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Is there more to what success means to Siddhi today?
Yes. It's actually really interesting now that I'm aware of my purpose. And I go around every day and I know what it is to realize so many people don't know. And that journey is not obvious because as you transition from finance, you just think, well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I'm good at. It's really confusing. And I went through all of that time. And I think then we started Yhangry. Even then, it's like, what is your purpose? Like building $1 billion company? Is that the purpose? That again, I'm just trying to make money. Is it that? No. It can't be. However, I have articulated it. So my 10-year goal is to build $1 billion company, which will make it very easy for anyone across the world to book a private chef. And what that will do is allow people to get together with friends, families, and make wonderful memories. However, that is just a stepping stone because once I do that, I will get to call myself a female entrepreneur that's built $1 billion company. And I think that matters because representation matters.
Absolutely.
And like still, I have a short list of all women that have been have built $1 billion companies, and it's not enough. It's not enough to inspire a whole new generation of women to do the same. My ultimate purpose is to create a world where men and women have equal opportunities. And I really care about this. And so that's my progression. I need to do this because it's really fun. I want to build a big company, and that will change the game for women. And then whatever wealth I have, I'll probably create a fund and like just fund all women businesses and then call it a day and then hope to change.
I couldn't resonate with that more. And I think it's really important, specifically when you're talking about cerebral opportunity, right? We're not talking about trying to fight a man or trying to build a table at home that men would do. I think when people think you're talking about equality in that sense, that's not it. It's about cerebral equality, cerebral opportunity, and pay gap and all of that. So absolutely. Have you heard of Anne-Marie Maffedon?
I have not.
So she's quite big on the tech space, and she's written a book called She's in Control. And I'd been to her book launch, and she recently, she's done a lot of work around getting more women in science and tech. And I'd be really interested to know, what do you think are the barriers to more women entering that space?
I'll answer this question So I think when people have a lot of assumptions that they make because they think a certain way. So when I was in trading, there aren't a lot of women in trading. It's like a very man's world, and like you have to be aggressive and loud. And I loved it. I was like, this is great. I fit right in because like people hate me because I'm so loud, but people love me for this and I'm paid more. So it was like a perfect match. Yeah. And to be honest, I really loved that there were like guys everywhere. I was like, what a fun environment. And I love the spotlight. And one day someone was like, hey, by the way, there are a group of high school people coming. Can you come down and just chat to them? And I was like, okay, cool, whatever, let's do that. I popped downstairs. I was like, hey guys, how's everyone doing? Chatted with them and I tried to explain to them what trading is. I spoke to them about stats and math and how trading, you're just making decisions based on risk and it's just like probability. But I gave them some examples, and after sort of like 25 minutes, I was like, cool. So who thinks they want to become a trader? Raise your hand. In that room, there were 50% women, 50% men, and none of the women raised their hand. And literally in that moment, I was so shocked and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. So I actually then was like, can you guys can one of you tell me why is it that you don't want to be a trader? And one of the women, or like maybe girl actually in high school, I don't know, it's a girl, right? Yeah. She said, I feel that there are not enough women on the trading floor. And I just feel as though I don't want to be a part of that surrounding where there aren't enough women. I don't feel comfortable. And that was so new to me because in my mental model, it was so fun to not have women and just have men. And at that point, I was like, wow, I couldn't have even realized this. So I started asking questions. I do think a lot of what I'm missing comes down to representation or not feeling comfortable or feeling that the environment is very hostile. Also, to be clear, when I started trading, and this was in New York, I was an intern. And this is back in 2012, and it wasn't very PC back then. You know, like what the guys said when I was intern, they were like, well, I was like, oh, I'd love to be a trader. And I was just like fighting for my spot. And he was like, oh, well, why don't you go back to India, get married? What? And all these things were like not even funny. And in my mind, I just thought, wait till the day I become a trader because I deserve it. Yeah. And I did. And I even remember emailing that person very nicely being like, thank you, but no thank you, because he never gave me a job. And I was like, well, I got a job at a much better bank at a much more intelligent trading desk. But thanks for your help anyway. So I think it was harder. It is harder for women to skip through that hoop. And the last thing is, people still tend to get people like themselves through the door. Absolutely. And this one is so obvious. I sat at a trading desk. Most of it were men. They like to drink beer. They like to go to the pub. They watch sports. I hate sports. Yeah. And when someone sits on the desk and rotates with them, they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. I see this person fitting in. Let's go. So guess who ends up getting hired? More men. And obviously this is like changing and it's getting better. But the only way for this to get a lot better is when you have more women who are making hiring decisions, because they'll say, actually, there are two candidates. That one looks awesome. Yeah. Don't overlook that woman. Yeah. So I think that is actually one of the bigger reasons. And I've seen people get hired because they fit in and they're fun, and not to say that they don't deserve it, but maybe there are other females that are getting overlooked because they don't go to the pub and have pints or like watch sports.
Yeah, because they say business and pleasure don't mix, but actually a lot of business is personal and pleasure is part of it, and a lot of it is social norms. So I think what we're taught very early on is different. And it's interesting because it's similar when I was doing my surgical rotation. And I loved surgery. I loved surgery. I would have loved to be a surgeon. And I remember people around me trying to convince me to be surgeons, and the surgeon even asking the group of us who wants to apply or who wants to be a surgeon. But there weren't many girls who were interested. It wasn't that they thought there were barriers. They just weren't interested, Siddhi. They just were like, no, but I don't want that kind of a life. I want to do this. I want to do X, Y, Z. And it really made me think that there's a whole group of people fighting for more women to enter surgery, enter tech, enter all these worlds. But there is a whole group of people that don't want to enter it as well. So I don't think we're trying to force every woman to be like, be alpha, go for this, go for that. But I think the ones that do either don't know there's a point of reference, that it can be done until they see someone do it, right? Like when we see the Vice President of America or when we see Priyanka Chopra doing different things, you're seeing actually things are possible, and then there's a new point of reference. I think that to me was personally from a medical front, very eye-opening, because I thought it's just they weren't given the options. But actually what I witnessed was a lot of women in that particular setting didn't want to do that. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. And you're right. I think people are allowed to make their own choices. Yeah. I do. Like, you know what this brings back to me? When I was in high school in India, and if someone asked me, what do you want to be? I would say, I guess a housewife. It was so normal to me because I didn't know what else existed. In India, like people were just getting married and then like having babies, and that was normal. So I didn't even know a trader existed.
It still is normal.
But it is still normal, but like I think our generation, most people end up starting work. And especially when I've left India, like how are you going to pay your rent? Of course, you need to work to pay your rent and all this stuff. So it's more normal now to have a job or to do something than to just be a housewife, because that is also like there's some amount of privilege in there. But I used to say that because I'd never seen anything else. Yeah. And the moment I went to Colombia, I did computer science, artificial intelligence, thanks to my sister who went to Stanford, and she basically pushed me into it. Grateful. Suddenly I was like, all right, so I guess I should be applying to Google also. Yeah. And then I went to Google, and then I was like, actually, I don't want to be a nerdy developer. Yeah. I'm allowed to do something else. And then I did a trader. But it was because I was exposed to all these things, and suddenly I had choices and I could make a bit more educated choices. However, I totally take your point that once we've had enough choices and there are enough women represented in that, then everyone has their own choice. You can choose not to do it, and then it's your power to you.
And I think that's where it comes down to. It has to be your choice. I think society can influence, people can kind of advise you, but I think inherently it has to be your choice. And that's what I really try and advocate to young girls, young students who come and talk to me. I'm just like, it has to be your choice. Go talk to different people, see how different people are living their lives. Because a lot of people are really young, around 18 to 22, to decide what they want their life to look like, right?
I agree.
And you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to say, I'm going to do something for 5 years, and now I'm going to evolve into something else. and something else. You don't have to be defined in a set box like once upon a time you had to be, right? With the internet, the world it's not binary anymore, isn't it?
Oh my God, you literally saying everything I would be saying. So you, so you already said it, but I agree. And I also think a lot of us are going to have multiple careers. And it's just because it's become so easy, it's so fluid. Like you are a doctor, you have a podcast of your own, you're a dancer. Like those are already parallel professions that people would think never could collide, and they are colliding. And for me, I don't want a singular identity. I then want to open a fund, and I want to fund women, but I want to be a founder, and I'm a dancer. And I think all of these things will be in parallel. Some will be more dominant, and it's very fluid. I think opportunities are now very fluid. So yes, there are good things about social media and bad things, but the good thing is your career can be a lot more fluid. So I love, and at 21, you're not meant to know what you'll do. Like 20, I don't even know what I want to do 40 years from now or 30. I could tell you 10, but that's kind of about it.
Yeah. But this is the thing, isn't it? Like you said, your mind hasn't even explored half the options, and I think that's the beauty of it. You have to have a growth mindset, keep your mind open. And I love that. I absolutely love that you said that. Having said that, you're in this competitive world, investments, targets, board meetings, all of this stuff. Does self-doubt ever creep in?
Yes, definitely. I think it'd be crazy for anyone to say no. So I guess like your question sort of is like, what do you do about it? I think self-doubt is very normal. I read something recently which made a lot of sense. And in order to feel motivated, you need to know your end goal and you need to know your next step. Once you know your end goal, for us, that's like building $1 billion company. Yeah. Great. Like I know what we're aiming for and I know my next step. I know what I need to build product-wise in the next month, the month after. I know. It's like work feels like flow. Everything is great. I know it doesn't matter. There are problems every day, but I'm solving it. And then the moment the next step becomes murky, like let's say suddenly like there's a very big issue, suddenly what we plan next isn't happening, and you're like facing down it's like endless possibilities, but you have no idea. That's when self-doubt creeps in and you're like, damn, like, because it's only when things don't work do you start doubting then the goal. Yeah. And I think what do you do at that point? And I think there are a lot of things, and I love to read books. I nurse myself back into mental resilience through books, through podcasts. And I think for me, I've done a lot of things actually this year, because last year I went through burnout with me. Like Hyun and I both went through burnout during Y Combinator. And
that's your partner? That's your co-founder?
That is my co-founder, yes.
Guys, we were in the elevator and I was just like, so how did you meet your partner? I meant her life partner. But she goes, oh, we met at work and she's this and this. I was like, no, I'm not talking about Yhangry. But that just goes to show.
Yeah. Yhangry is everything. So much time spent on it. Like, best PR, he's a partner. But like, wow, Hainan's like, takes up most of my time in my life. So we had a burnout during Y Combinator, I think. And actually, at that point when everyone thought, oh my gosh, you've made it, because Y Combinator really for a tech founder is one of the most prestigious things you can get into.
And you got in first time.
We got in first time, and 70% of the applicants have applied second time or more. So it's quite a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
However, we got in, things really went badly. Like Omicron had affected our business. Like obviously it was illegal to like go socialize with your friends. Our model was a bit messed up. A lot of things had to change. And we felt a combination of fear, anxiety, like dread. We had to fundraise soon, and literally we broke everything overnight in Y Combinator. I remember days where there was like zero revenue, and I was just thinking, oh my God, like it's been we've broken everything. It was a disaster. And I think we did the opposite of what we should have. So we stopped seeing our friends. We stopped eating good food. We started working 14 hours a day. We started working 7 days a week. We started calling people in over the weekends. Towards the end of YC, and everyone was saying, well done. I felt like the biggest fraud because I just had this face and I was like, how fake can I be? And I just have to put on this facade. When someone asks, how's it going? You just have to say, oh yeah, things are really good. And I just really felt like I was on the top of the cliff. I was about to fall anytime. And I remember there was no joy. And actually, Hein and I finally confided in each other. And I remember I used to just like, be working and there used to be tears falling down my eyes, and I was like, this is really weird. And I didn't even know, because I'm not someone who does that normally. I've never so I kind of was like, oh my God, I'm broken, something's broken. And I didn't want to call Hein because I was like, oh gosh, I'll pass this on. And one day she called me and she was like, I need to tell you something. I I keep seem to crying every day. And I was like, oh my God, me too. Thank you for telling me. And actually knowing that she was also going through it was amazing because I was like, misery loves company, man. I'm so glad.
It's not even misery. What you've just described is physical manifestations of stress in the human body.
Right.
Especially high functioning individuals running multi-million-dollar companies, running around, taking on, not just responsibility of the team, of the company, of, your trajectories, all of your projections, everything, you're carrying it on your shoulders. Yeah. And there was this analogy we recently heard where also as a leader, you may have this umbrella over the team where you don't let it rain on them, but then
Absolutely. Like they cannot know this. And at that point, exactly. And you feel like a fraud walking to work because you're like, right, okay, like everyone's amazing, but I'm not going to tell you guys I'm going through a burnout. Like that's terrible. So that was the lowest point. We got through it together. I remember as we graduated YC, we were like, right, something has to change. Yeah. We took a little bit of a break. We started working out. We started eating better. I read books, obviously. I read Solve for X, which was amazing. Then last year, we had some of our biggest highs. We really figured out stuff. But I entered this year thinking, I love making New Year resolutions. And my resolution for this year, I think it's been the best one so far. I said I wanted to build mental discipline by building physical discipline. And then I was like, right, what books fit this genre? So I read David Goggins. Yeah. Like he's like a Superman in real life, like very tough philosophy. His entire point is your physical limits are as much or as low as your mental limits. And I tested it in the gym. I thought I couldn't do something because I'm like, I'm dainty. I just can't. And then I told myself, you're gonna do it. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. And I could do it. I like hung from this bar for like a minute and a half. And I was like, oh my God. And I thought it was impossible, but nothing is impossible. It's what you tell your brain. Then I went on to, and I think my entire genre this year is about physical discipline, mental resilience. And I think you need to train yourself to realize there are highs in life, lows in life, but it ultimately doesn't matter. You just have to have the focus to get through it. It's one foot in front of the other. And I think it's really exciting when you realize that a low will come. Yeah. But now I'm going to be prepared. Yes. So I wanted to build mental resilience because I know something like that burnout will come again. Yeah. And now I'm prepared for it. I know what I need to do to get through. I have the discipline to make myself go to a gym or a dance class, like see friends, like eat better food.
But it's needed. Connection, unwinding, 0 days as we call it in medicine. It's so needed where you do nothing and you just allow your brain to just be at a null state. And have you noticed, there was a whole study done where a lot of great ideas come when you've actually quietened the brain. People think it's when you're brainstorming and when you're in think tanks, but actually, so for me, that's either in the shower or when I'm driving, where we're literally not thinking and you just switch, you know what I mean?
You know why I'm laughing? Because I got to your book today.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, there are loads of ways to say the same thing, but like John Hari in Stolen Focus literally talks about the concept of mind wandering and how people think it's time wasted. Yeah. But no, it's as precious as your sleep. Your brain's is making connections and shower or just going on a walk where you suddenly have ideas. It happens for a reason. So I've actually stopped listening to music and podcasts now sometimes because I just let my brain wander.
I schedule it in now where I literally have a time where I just allow my brain to do nothing and things come to me that I may not have thought of. And you're right, that's when the connections happen. That's where you're not asleep, you're awake and these connections are forming, Also, Siddhi, I think it's quite brave of you to even voice that you went through that burnout and what that was like physically. And I'm really proud of you for taking active steps. But I wasn't joking. That is literally your body telling you through signs, like in different people manifest differently, right? It could be lack of concentration, tearing up every 2 minutes, acid reflux, chest pain, because we see this in clinic all the time. And it's because it's your body telling you need to slow down, take a breather, sleep.
We did it. And I wish there was someone who could have told us more. And I think it probably took us longer because we didn't tell anyone then. Yeah. I think it's easier now for me to speak about it retrospectively. But in the moment, I was like, oh my God, am I broken? Yeah. Like my face is broken. And we were fundraising at the same time. So I'd get on calls and I'd be like everyone would be like, great energy. And I was like, oh. Yeah. But like, I got to go have a cry now because the cry is coming.
But it's a phase of life, isn't it? And it's done. And I think a lot of founders say this. You go through that phase and now you look back and you have this wisdom. And when people hear you now, if they resonate with it, they would know, oh, actually, that sounds like me. I'm getting these symptoms. I need to do something. Yeah. amazing. We've touched on so many different things. What I wanted to also ask you was, you're a woman from a South Asian background. I'm sure there was a lot of support. Were there any obstacles from the community or anyone personally in terms of what you're trying to do?
So I've always felt, and this is like a very generic feeling, but ever since I was in trading actually, that, and I will generalize here, but this is only my point of view. Like I felt as though like French people support French people, Italians support Italians, or they just seem to like gravitate and be like, oh yeah, we're buds because we share the same roots. South Asians don't do that. And like with Indians, there is like this inbuilt competitiveness. And you might see someone and you might be like, okay, cool. Why? I don't know. And it might be because there's so many of us that you don't relate, but like something never made sense. Yeah. And I think when I moved over to the startup world, there are very distinct cases of people just saying, no, totally okay, like whatever. Whereas I feel now, I really believe in like abundance, and I believe in like gratitude and manifesting and just like having positivity everywhere. And it doesn't really matter the people who are not in that bubble. It's okay. Like just send out great stuff everywhere and it'll come back to you. So I feel like now, very actively, I love being South Asian. Like I love Desi outfits. They're so fabulous. I actually wrote that in this form. It's like one of my guilty pleasures is wearing really fabulous Desi outfits. I love dancing. I love Bollywood dancing. So I think I want to make it a bigger part of my life. We threw this like Yhangry offline awards, and I wore sari as a black tie because I was like, you know what? Yeah. I am so proud of like Priyanka Chopra, Payal Kadakia, of all these amazing South Asian women across the world. That I want to embrace more of that. So I guess my short answer now is like I send out so much positive waves and I get back a lot of it. Like we met. Like I feel like I've met so many incredible South Asians recently. So I don't know actually if my own mindset was wrong then. And I attracted what I saw. Whereas now I'm attracting what I want to see. I don't know. There's like a subtle like circular loop.
But I also think there are different generations where people might have thought it was harder for them to get to where they are. So why not that they gatekeep, but I have witnessed a lot of people say this to me, that they make it harder for the others. And it's like, actually, you should open doors and everyone should, because there's enough room. There's enough of the pie, there's enough of the cake, or whatever analogy you want to use. I genuinely think there's enough for everyone to shine in their own way and win together. Yeah. Isn't it?
I agree. And actually, it compounds. It's not even there is enough. It'll go bigger. Yeah. Like if two people come together, do something, the results are going to be better for everyone involved.
And it doesn't dull your shine. It doesn't dull anyone else's shine. If anything, it's more power,
No. But I guess what I've realized through this process is if you go in with the right mindset, you'll attract the right people. And you cannot be worried about the few people that don't respond. Who cares? By the same logic, there is so much abundance that you'll just attract whatever is meant to come your way. So actually, although this is true, and I did have this notion, now I'm attracting all these insanely amazing South Asians in my life, and I'm like, great, that is my new truth, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you always been such a go-getter?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. That's been consistent.
Yeah, I think like as a child, I feel I was they used to call me tomboy, which actually doesn't help because I'm like, God, we're going back to a patriarchal system where being a tomboy is something you should be proud of. But I just think it was like the idea that if you fall, get back up. Like if you want something, go ask for it. That's like the first thing. My dad would actually take us to, let's say, a restaurant or something. He'd be like, go ask for this. And as kids, you'd be like, oh no, I feel shy. He'd be like, get up. Yeah. Get up and go ask. So I feel like, yes, like now I really, really believe in the one thing. Just ask. If someone's going to say no, let them say no to you. So I will ask anything. And I feel like that has opened my door to my job, which was Barclays. I actually got it because I emailed someone. Why hang? All of the little doors that open, there's so many rejections. But it doesn't matter because like you got to ask. And then the person who says yes, it's like, awesome, cool, done. Yeah. So I think it's go-getter to me boils down to just ask and be proactive. So I feel like what I love about myself is persistence. Like if I had to encapsulate myself in one word, it'd be persistence. So just ask, persist, and then it all kind of works out.
Yeah, I think that's true. Having even sat across you this afternoon is true. And what you said about your parents really having drilled that into you, when you say this year you want to build that mental resilience, it started when, as a child, you fell and mum said, get up. Yes. So I totally hear that. Yhangry is so much about bringing people together, about food. What does food mean to you?
Something that I cannot cook myself.
Have you ever tried?
I make instant noodles. Okay. I actually joke. In lockdown, Hainan and I ran these like cooking classes because we actually realized the marketing cost to acquire a follower had just become like so cheap, and we were stuck in the same apartment. Every day we would run a live cooking class, and I cooked like everything possible, and I hated all of it. I was like, oh my God, there's so much washing up. And like we burned down our kitchen. It was like PTSD and trauma. And like I've cooked a lot, but like I do not enjoy it. I think there's a skill. I don't have the patience for it. And I think I really respect the people who do it. So as a profession, they're artists. Like they are incredible. And so for me, like why we have this platform is because I was the person who never cooked. And I was like, I don't want to be forced. I think we actually need to liberate women from being asked to cook. Like that will be the second thing I do. Like when people ask you, hey, but you're a woman, why don't you cook? What do you mean?
Have people asked you that?
Of course. And I think like coming from like a South Asian community, kind of like the household chores are by default the woman.
Yeah.
And to me, I grew up in a family where I'd never cook because my mom was like, go study. Like these chores, someone else will do it, but you focus on studying. So I'm like, for me, the premise of equality is not sending me to that kitchen in my household. But then if I can hire this incredible chef, that's amazing. It's like a win-win-win because they love to cook. I love to do other things instead. So anyway, like I think in the beginning, I was not a cook. Heinen was a foodie. And together, we created something because we saw there was a gap in the market. But I also filled my need because not a cook needed
But it's such a social thing because I love hosting. And, you know, like when I was saying about when I was introducing you, I came across Yhangry and thought, this is amazing because I love cooking. I love cooking for my friends. I love getting them together. And when I saw that, I was like, this is such a great idea. Then it takes the stress off. You can just worry about getting the place ready and the food will just be done. And you're helping a business. Yeah, it just was amazing to me. So, you know, when you talk about household norms in South Asian households, it's interesting. I think mine was one of the anomalies where my dad was a better cook. Stuart, like he's an incredible cook. So now I just find it normal when I see men who can cook really well. I find that normal because dad is who taught me how to cook. And I don't know, I think when you even think of like the professional chefs, a lot of them are men as well. Majority, I think.
They are.
Yeah.
And even oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Like, I don't understand where the women are going because I know for a fact in India, there are more women that cook than men in like a household situation. But then when you look at chefs, it's dominated by males still. And actually, like even on Yhangry, I could give you stats and like we really try everything to push our female chefs and they go through a harder time. Like there's so much stuff we can do to help them more. But there are more male chefs. Like more chefs apply. It's easier for them somehow. There are more of them in the profession. Yeah. However, I really, really do think our platform will make it easier for female chefs. And then the reason is like there's so much dialogue around like why hospitality kitchens are harder for female than for male because like they're heavy pots or like you have to climb a lot and like the hours, like what if you are maternity leave?
Physical limits.
Exactly. They're physical limits which end up manifesting itself. Even though it's ridiculous, your male counterpart could help you, but it's harder. And the restaurant life is very tough. However, we have so many incredible chefs that are on like over 1,000 chefs on our platform across UK. And some of them are master chefs, Michelin chefs, but there are a lot of them are Dishoom, Oaxaca, like people just making their way up the restaurant ladder. They do this in the free time to gain more expertise. And you set your hours, you can get paid way more than a restaurant, and actually you get appreciation almost immediately, and you can build your profile and actually start to be like, right, okay, like this is how I should be. So
she's tempting me to leave the NHS and become a chef.
Either you are a user of Yhangry or you cook so well that we can onboard.
I think that should be a whole niche for you guys to provide specific food for people with health conditions. Is that a thing? Is Yhangry ever looked into like celiac disease, IBD, diabetics?
Honestly, there are so many use cases of why you could hire someone for personalized meals. And as you said, I think like hosting and hen do's and stag do's and birthdays and holiday homes and people together is just an obvious one. And chefs love it. It's really fun. And like, it's just like, that's become like our biggest, and there's so much to do right now. Like there are weddings and engagement dinners and proposal dinners. It's like all very cute. But then, for example, we have certain footballers using us for meal prep. And I love meal prep because I'm like, just give me some food. Like I just want to warm it up and personalize. Like sometimes
I'll cook for you. Can I come cook for you one day?
Yes.
I'll come cook for you.
Okay, yes. And then it's like, I just want Indian one day. I just want like lasagna in my fridge. Like let me eat it for one meal. I just really crave it. So, but it depends. But I feel like what you're saying is also another subset of meal prep where it's like you have a like is it not a disease, an issue, a shortcoming, and a chef can actually help cure that, because how are you going to get personalized meal prep?
It is a disease. It is a health
Exactly.
problem,
So
yeah.
currently we do get people actually doing that. It's not like a huge, like I don't think we've like made our funnel better, but one day it will
One day,
be.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will 100% be supporting that, because we see those patients and
Right,
they really
yeah.
struggle.
Yeah.
They really struggle because they may have children, they may have families and other responsibilities, and they neglect their own health. So if platforms like this one day could provide meals or chefs who specifically cater to people with those
Actually,
conditions.
I love that. And actually, I'm going to make a change tomorrow. Sorry, I do this thing where if I think an idea is great, I'll just implement it tomorrow. So already you can find chefs. And like, like, for example, footballers, I'm booking a chef that can do nutrition. But we should just have certain tags, which allows you to filter for chefs already. Because we have all these chefs. We just need to ask a couple of questions and like expose that to the customer.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh my God, great idea.
Yay! Cool. Well, this was really fun. I think you can relax now. I'm going to get to our fun part, which is a rapid fire.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to have any problems with it. I think your brain works like fireworks anyway, okay? No thinking too much, straight answers, okay? It's all fun. It's all relaxed. Okay. Siddhi, what's your favorite restaurant in London?
The shoe.
Okay. Your comfort food?
Oh my God, chole come to my mind, and black dal.
Oh, I do. Gali dal. Oh, I love it. Your best quality about your co-founder?
Energy. I love her energy.
And if she was to answer that about you?
Hype woman. So it's actually like a synonym to energy, but yes.
Basically, they're the same. They're basically the same human. What do you do to unwind?
Guilty pleasure. God, Netflix Grey's Anatomy.
That's your guilty pleasure. You make your mind think about like science and
It's amazing.
okay. I've never gotten into it. I would not want to come home from work and watch Grey's Anatomy to relax. Okay, fine. If you could serve a meal to anyone, who would it be?
Payal Kadakia, the founder of ClassPass. She's South Asian. She dances. She has built $1 billion company. My idol.
Yeah. Okay. What would you feed her?
Obviously, the chole dal and garlic naan.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing in 2019 when you were starting off this journey, what would it be?
Work out a little bit more. And I think the reason is like, I really do believe physical discipline builds mental resilience and discipline. And I just never understood that discipline can be manifested physically. And it's like the days where your brain breaks down, you still have a routine. So actually, by physical discipline, I mean sort of like a routine. I had no routine, no sense of anything. I wish I had more of a routine and some form of physical discipline as like the baseline to fall back on.
That's so insightful. Because it's a muscle. Discipline is a muscle. Resilience is a muscle, and you can build it.
Yes.
That's amazing. Could anything make you go back to being a trader?
No.
That was an easy one. I think I could get back. That was amazing. Well done. That wasn't too bad. Going back to what you just said about building that discipline, someone once said something really interesting to me. They said, if you tell yourself, I'm going to wake up at 5 and go work out, right? And it's 5 and you snooze your alarm. If you can't keep your word to yourself, how do you expect someone else to respect you or another person to keep their word to you? And that really kind of stuck with me. I was like, that's so true. So now if I tell myself something, you're going to do this, I really take it seriously. I'm like, Novi, you have to respect yourself enough.
Can I agree? Can I add something to make that easier? So this year, that's what I went through, right? And I was like, not snoozing. And one day I let myself in that moment of weakness say, okay, I'm a bit unwell. And then I was like, damn.
No, but maybe you were unwell.
No, but I wasn't.
Okay, fine.
And I knew like my mind like softened on me because it was like 7 a.m. and I hate like a 7:30 class. And that's when I realized the privilege of being able to create your time. And I realized instead of scheduling it at 7:30 and fighting my instinct because I'm a night animal, I now do 12:30 where there is no doubt I will be awake. So for me to follow that discipline is so easy. So now I wake up looking like I make my bulletproof coffee, I do my journal, I like love my day. And then when 12:30 rolls around, I'm like, right, off to the gym because I'm awake, I got this. So it's easier for me to keep my word to myself.
That. And
that just like combine those two.
Yeah, because
make it easier.
It's never one size fits all.
No.
It's the same thing, even, I keep using analogies from medicine, but when you prescribe something to a person, people often think of them as a number, but actually they're a person, they're a human. If you don't cater it to that particular person, they're never going to take the medicine or take your treatment. So you really have to understand who the person is and what you're catering to, exactly what you said, 12:30 is your time, that's your time. So yeah, different people. No, that's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so this is a part of the show where I have pearls in this little bowl. Guests pick a topic and you give us your pearl of wisdom on that topic.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. Go for it. I think she's going to pick a good one.
Faith.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. So you know what comes to my mind immediately? So Steve Jobs said that, and it's never left my mind. So you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you must believe in something. Karma, destiny, faith, kismet, something to make you keep going, because when you look back, the dots always connect. So I think actually faith has a lot of forms. And for me, sometimes I tell people, and I use this like very casually, but I'll say, oh, I just have blind faith. And by that, I mean, I believe it will all work out. And my family is super religious. I think I'm a bit more spiritual, but ultimately I think whatever you're believing in is your faith. And it's huge, because if you don't have that, how can you keep going? Because you're going to go through really tough times. And when things are great, it's so easy. Like, it's not even that fun. But things are really tough. That's what you need to make it through. And it's faith. So, yeah, Steve Jobs said that. I think it's insane. Like,
Well,
it's
now
like
Siddhi
pearl
said
of
that.
wisdom.
It is
Oh
a
my God.
do you get it? Do you get it? The pose. Yeah.
I love that. So love this one.
And it's funny because even we say this whole, it's a saying in the Bible where you walk by faith and not by sight. So exactly what you said, you're just walking blindly by faith, because you may not see the outcome, you may not see your desired goal or wish, but you're walking in faith that you're going to get there and something bigger than you is going to guide you. No, that's beautiful. Oh, what's these? Right at the end, if you want, you don't have to, you can ask me a question.
Oh my God, I would love to.
Okay.
Okay. So if you could give up all of your wealth, earnings, whatever, to a cause tomorrow, everything, if you had to, what would that be?
I don't think I have enough wealth that would be given to a cause to achieve something.
Hypothetical. Like, if there's everything in your life currently that you could give to
Just for one cause?
towards one cause, yeah, what would that one cause, charity, be?
I actually think it would be towards, well, I'm manifesting that this amount of wealth comes in my hand one day, but it would be towards providing equitable healthcare for everybody in the world. And I say this because in today's day and age, in 2023, children should not be dying of malnutrition. Children should not be dying of diseases that they can get vaccinated towards but can't afford vaccinations. Hunger and starvation, these are not words we should be using in current present contexts, And recently I had the privilege of working with some global charities, going to continents where things that we take for granted are just not a norm there. And I think if I could do anything, if that kind of wealth came into my hands, I think equitable healthcare, that would 100% be the priority. Siddhi, thank you for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned so much from you, and I think everybody has. I will leave all the information below of where you can find her social handles, maybe an email address if she has the time to reply before 12:30, guys, or after 12:30.
After 12:30.
After 12:30. Anything you'd like to say, Siddhi, to everybody listening today?
Just go do, and I think believe, have faith.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, yay.